If you think about the fruits of the Spirit, I'm the opposite in that mode. And I'm suffering, but so is everybody that's with me.
This is the After Dinner Mint, a podcast of stories I tell you at dinner. Think of the mint as the stories you tell after you've been kicked out of the restaurant, holding a mint, standing in the street, telling more honest stories with your friends than you did at the table. It's not a sermon. It's not advice. It's not self-help. We're processing what we're learning about faith and life, honestly, in community, to encourage you to do that with your God and your community. I'm Beck, and today I'm here with Rach and Britt. Hey guys.
Hey!
So today's topic is I don't want to optimize anymore, which was kind of born out of my frustration with productivity culture. You know, I like to tick boxes, but to kick things off, get a bit of like lay of the land. Rach, what things make up your week?
I think I might be a terrible person for the productivity episode because I have way too many things in my life. I work part-time, but I often do way too much overtime because I really like to be helpful. And then I also am like the taxi for my children and all of their activities. And then we also have church stuff and a Bible study midweek. And my son plays basketball. What else? And then I like make lots of food. I think that's it.
That too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like making food.
I feel tired just listening to that. Britt, tell me
I'm
what makes
tired
up your
all the
week.
time, so that's it's fine.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit similar, trying to cram lots into a week. So, yeah, I work 2 days a week. I do the school drop-off and activities with my younger kids, and we host a Bible study once a week, and we go to church, and then my elder daughter has some activities as well that are more after school. Try to see friends, try to exercise, have to cook meals. Also cleaning up the house and the surrounds. Seems like it never ends, to be honest.
Yes.
It is. I saw this sign once and it was like, laundry is not a job, it's a state of being. And I was like, I feel that. I feel that in my bones.
I hate it.
This morning I was informed that there was no clean clothes for lots of members of my families because I just hadn't washed any for a while. I just keep forgetting.
That's fine. Turn them inside out.
You'll be right.
The first half of last year was so crazy that I actually was like, I was pregnant and I was due in like the middle of the year and I was so excited to have a baby so that I could have a rest from my own life.
That was clever.
I was like, this is done. Like, this is not a sensible thing.
It's also not true.
But I was also then like, I would just have like clarity of purpose. No one's like, oh no, you're with a newborn, we need you to do this other thing. I was like, I just will hang out with the baby.
Mm-hmm. How'd it go?
But yeah, great.
Sure. So
yeah, I just launched a magazine. It's fine. I'm not good at sitting still. But no, so my youngest is like 10 months old. My middle is in kindy and my oldest is year 2. But I think I'm in a season of things ending. The women's Bible study I ran ended. I was going to go back to work, but I'm not. I think it's been a really weird season, but good one. So it's currently like caring for kids, writing and podcasting, coordinating this, and I coordinate playgroup. What else? Oh yeah, and we go to we go to a Bible study. My children go to school. I have to take them there.
You do.
They're not doing sport this year. I'm like, no. I think this year is probably a reaction to like the last few years. A hot take or an opinion, and maybe Britt, you could speak to this first, but do you think Christianity has been impacted by productivity, hustle culture?
As in, we're trying to optimize our faith?
Yeah, or like optimize, or like try and pack in as much as we can, or do more, or like kind of hustle to do Christian service. I don't know.
Yeah, I find it difficult to work that out because when I first became a Christian, the church I went to had a massive emphasis on serving. I would have been like 17, 18 doing, I don't know how many hours of volunteer work I would have done a week, but hours and hours. Okay, I helped with the youth group. I would be there for an entire day on the Friday. I would then pick up kids to take to youth group, help run the program, drive them home, then meet with friends, like other youth leaders, go out after, hang out, and then go home. And like that was kind of a normal part of my life, to pack as much in as possible. And my family thought that was so weird because none of them were involved in church particularly. And so they were like, this is a cold. Why do you have to do so many things? And so it was quite a relief for me when I got to the church that I go to now, because there was so much more of a focus on people being creaturely and having limits and kind of honoring the rhythms of your life rather than go, 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 optimizing. And so I don't know if, I mean, this youth group stuff, it's like 20 years ago. I don't think there was such a thing as this ideas around optimization, because I feel like it's a real tech bro influence on the world.
It's a real
But I do think there are still forms of Christianity where there is a massive emphasis on serving the church by kind of running yourself into the ground in order to do so. I don't feel external pressure from the church to do that now, but within my own flaws as a person, I'm prone to doing that to myself. Definitely, because I'm like, everything sounds great. I would love to help. And then I'm like, why would I do this to myself? But also now I've made a commitment, and the Bible's pretty clear. If you make a commitment, you should stick with it. So yeah, I don't know that it is so much in Christian culture, or if it's that blurry line around service. What do you guys reckon?
Well, I mean, it's the same as so many things, is that it comes down to the heart of why you're doing things. Because I often find myself being busy and saying yes to things because a large part of how I get self-worth is being helpful, and people, you know, I go, oh, I can help. Yay. Like, yes, please let me help. And then you think, well, it says, the Bible says, like, all work you do unto the Lord. But I was like, am I doing that, or am I doing this because it makes me feel good to feel helpful? And then often I say yes and then have a really terrible attitude about it at the time when I'm doing it. So I don't know if that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I came across this verse actually just this morning in my Bible reading, but when you read a verse and you're like, oh wait, like that's it. I was like, oh, that's my life. I understand now. And it was like, it's in James. So it's like, so where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder. And I was like, oh, yeah, I get that. Like, and I kind of really relate to what you're saying, Britt. Well, actually, both of you, but in that we're like, it's probably not external pressure. It's actually internal. I'm just like, I love that. That sounds really fun. I want to be really helpful. Let me do that. That sounds great. Like I can pack it all in, but it's probably, I reckon looking at it, I'm like, well, I'd rather be busy than have to sit with stuff. Like I don't want to have feelings. Like, ew.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe it's that. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's also that whole thing around, I'd rather be busy than sit with stuff. But also, if I'm busy, I'm productive, I'm helping. Like you feel like you're doing something. And so it's exactly what you're saying, Rach, of, you get good stars, you get validation, you get that external people looking and thinking you're doing it right, or you're doing well, or you're good, which I think is a real sinful kind of draw card that lots of women do struggle with a lot of.
I was just going to say, do you think it's that women are probably more prone to that than men are, just with sort of social constructs of what the way that women should serve? And there's a lot of opportunities in the church to serve in a very sort of stereotypically feminine way. And so you kind of think, oh, well, I should be doing all those cooking and the serving things. I get worth from helping, and I want, and I mean, at the core of it, it's an identity issue of where is my identity coming from? Where is the source of my inner life coming from?
Yeah, and it kind of becomes a bit of works versus faith, because it's like, if I do these things, if I build this house, if I appear to be doing these things, like I'm storing up treasure in heaven, as opposed to, what is my heart's intention with this? And if I'm doing it and I'm really grumpy and I actually hate everyone in the moment, am I helping anyone?
Yeah, or am I that like woman in Proverbs who's just tearing down her house with her own hands? You're just like, I built this up and now I'm going to tear it down because I'm just resentful and grumpy. And you're like, am I actually being kind, or am I just, I suppose almost when I was thinking of like that optimizing language, it's almost every moment of your life you feel like, I can't just sit here. Oh, like I need to be doing something. I need to make this moment a bit better. Or if I have this habit needs to be better. Or like I should always be doing something. Like every minute of the day is a minute that you could be working or asleep, and like making your sleep better or whatever. And I like, it's just that weird thing. Like I think you actually kind of hinted at it, Britt, with you talked about that creatureliness and that finiteness, but you're like, oh, life goes in rhythms. And sometimes like those days are for rest, and sometimes those days are for, like if it's harvest, you're working hard. And I don't know, like modern life just feels like mush. Like you could be hanging out with kids and you also could be like on the phone, doing stuff on your phone and working, and you could also just be doing a little bit of everything, and then nothing feels like rest, and nothing feels like you never feel like you've achieved anything, and you also haven't rested, and it's always, yeah. Does that make any sense or not really?
Yes.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense to me. It makes me think of a article I saw the other day, which I do apologize because all I did was read the headline, didn't even read the article. But it was basically saying more and more women are choosing to work flexibly from home full time and care for their kids full time.
Ew.
And that it's this growing trend of women going, I'm like they're saying they're like skirting the conventional route or whatever. But I was like, wow, that's really like, that's heading for a breakdown.
Absolutely.
How can you possibly do all those things? And what you're saying about like, when you're talking about kind of every minute, how can I be productive? How can I this? How can I that? It just sounds exhausting because there is no rhythm of life in that. I've been reading the book of John with the women I read the Bible with, and there's just so much in there and I forget, when I read the Gospels, I'm always really amazed by he keeps escaping. They keep trying to kill him. I just didn't realize it started so soon.
Yeah.
But they're like basically saying they want to kill him, and then he keeps being like, the hour has not yet come. So no one's going to kill me because God's going to be in charge of this. You're not going to get me. But he does sneak away. Like he does that, where they take the boat across and the disciples take the boat and he just walks on the water to get there. And then they're all like, how did you get there? Did you take the boat? You're like, just the way that he does it and the way that the rhythms he holds to himself and the way that he does seek rest and is clearly exhausted by what he's carrying at times just really amazes me.
Yeah. And I think like I read this book called You're Only Human by a guy called Kelly M. Kapik. And it's so dense, and I've gone back to it a couple of times just to be like, I need to reread this. But it's that he's like, oh, God made you like with limits for your good. And like if you really look at God, telling the Israelites, like, you need to take a day off, you need to rest, like you have the year of Jubilee, like you have to Sabbath. I'm fundamentally bad at that. I'm like, I would, if it was me, I'd be like, I'm just going to add more things to my list. But I find it really hard to rest. But like kind of the only way I find I can do that is that like identity, Britt, where I think, or maybe it was Rach you hinted at, just being like, actually, who am I? And who do I trust? Because if it's me and my to-do list, well, then that's going to end badly. Yeah.
I think the one thing my husband talks about quite a bit is the economic concept of opportunity cost, that whatever you say yes to, you have to say no to other things.
Yes.
And so everything comes with some sort of cost to you. And I have really had to learn that lesson the hard way and seen the impact of my opportunity cost when I've said yes to something, not thought about it, totally forgot most of the time. And then it impacts people directly around me because of. But it's just one of those like, oh, for every yes you give, there's a no often to a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I have been noticing recently. I'm like, oh, if I push us all and hustle to do this thing so that in my head, I'm like, people aren't mad. I don't want anyone to be upset. So I'm going to push all of us so that we can do this thing. But then I
Yes.
leave being like, oh no, like I was tired and I was grumpy and this person is probably upset. And like, it's just that never ending cycle. And in the end, I'm like, well, who are my primary area of ministry? I'm like, oh, actually, it's these little people in my house. I'm like, my husband, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like, yeah, like there are other people after that, but I think I only have so much capacity. Like, I can't
Yeah.
love you know what I mean? Like, I can't do every ministry and I can't do everything, and I can't even, I feel like having the third child has slowed me down so much more where I'm like, I actually cannot do all of these things, like emotionally, physically, all of it.
Yeah.
It's, I have to work within limits, and like God made me with them.
Well, then it comes back to that creatureliness thing. You have limits because if you didn't have limits, what does that mean about who you are? Like that's us trying to be God,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
we're not
that's
God.
ambition.
We need limits to remind us that we are in this like weak vessel and we're made for more than this, but we actually don't get to have it yet. Like we've got the spirit as the deposit of what's to come, and definitely like being busy isn't inferring that at all, but like our limits do remind us of our need for God.
Yeah, you're like, it's not a sin, it's not a sin to be busy or to have a busy season. But I think it's that opportunity cost. If I continue to live like I don't have limits and I want to say yes to everything, and I love like the rush that you get, oh yeah, I can do that and I'm high capacity and I can do all the things, it pays out in the long run in like exhaustion or how you manage your household or all of those things or the state of your heart. There's a grain, there's a fabric to the way that the world works. Like in the long run, it's not going to go well for me if I continue to act like I think I'm trying to step into God's place when He's not actually asking me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also if I overload myself and get really tired, I either get sick or
Mm,
I'm just really grumpy. And when
mm.
I'm grumpy and tired, I'm actually more prone to sinful behaviour, speaking rudely to my kids, being impatient with them. If you think about the fruits of the Spirit, I'm the opposite in that mode. And I'm suffering, but so is everybody that's with me.
You're like tearing it all down. We can all suffer together. And
We
that's
are
that
all
verse, the
suffering
rest of it.
together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, the rest of the verse is like, but wisdom from above is first pure and peaceable and gentle, open to reason, full of mercy, impartial and sincere. And then it was like, a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. And I was like,
Way to
ah,
drive the point home, Beck.
Yeah.
this is what the Bible told me this morning. And I was like, how does this know about my life? Like,
What's
stop
that thing
talking
about
to
it
me
being
so
like
clearly.
living and active? Mm.
Yeah. Like, fine, okay, I understand
Oh,
now.
hey. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Actually, that was a lot in the was I reading John 8 today? He's like talking about Jesus talking about how he comes from above, but they're like from below. It's just so like you're reading like, oh, imagine that
Oh,
would cut.
yeah. He is not wrong though.
No, he's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we've done a lovely, like, being busy is numbing and we get lots of validation from it. And you get a clearer payoff than you do for like resting. Are there any other barriers, do you reckon,
Yeah,
to rest that we haven't covered? Or does that kind of sum it
people
up?
often like you more. I guess that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is particularly for me with work because of the nature of my work. It is, if we're short staffed, I know what it's like in the ED when it's short staffed and there's not enough people and there's too many junior staff that don't know what they're doing yet and are just terrified because they don't have anyone to help them.
Mm.
And then you're like, I can go in.
I totally can relate to that, Rach. I've had so many times where I've felt sick and said to my husband, I have to go in because I've got this client booked in today and I really need to see them. It's really important, blah, 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 blah. And I get myself in this big tizzy about it. And he's like, it's fine, you can take sick leave. And then I would get to work and that person would cancel. And I'd be like, they don't even know. And they
Yeah.
never asked me to rearrange my life for them. But
Yep.
I took it upon myself as this, like, I'm somehow responsible. And it's also, it is that, like, I'm trying to be God again. I'm trying to be in control. I'm trying to, like, fix things or heal things or whatever I'm trying to do. But rest is really a sign that we're surrendering to who God is and recognizing his place in our life.
But yeah, the same. I'm like, I remember in like just in my worst periods of being like probably more like burnt out, I would really just be like, I'm hoping to be sick. Like, and I would just like troll like health directors, not even health directors, like those health websites being like, I don't want something really bad, but just something like enough that I would have to spend, like someone would say I'd have to take time off work and they would write me a note or whatever. But then, like, I remember getting really sick and I had like a chest infection when I was pregnant. And I was like, no, I have to go to work. I have to go to work. I remember my husband saying to me, you're not getting better. You're actually getting worse. Like, you have to go see a doctor. He's never like that. He's very, very easygoing. But I was like, it's just so bizarre where you think, no, I can't let people down. Like, that would be really mean. Like, I'm not a mean person, but like really in the end, people are responsible for, they are responsible for their own lives and I'm responsible for mine. And like you said, they're not asking me to work when I'm sick.
No.
Or, yeah.
Have you ever met someone who's actually good at like genuine biblical rest? Because I don't know if I have. Because I'm just trying to think of what, like, we're all doing similar things. I was like, what does it look like to not do that? Like, what does it look like to be still? And I'm just trying to think of someone who I know that I've witnessed do that, and I can't think of anyone. Not in a consistent manner, where that like that's what they're characterized by.
I do have a friend who's pretty discerning about what she says yes to. I know she thinks quite a bit about it, but I think did learn that through basically burning out or being very unwell for a period. It seems like people who maybe have more limitations due to like physical or mental health sometimes have learnt a harder way probably that there's different limitations. But yeah, no one like hugely comes to mind. Even at like, I mean, Beck, I'd say, no offense, Rachel, but you're probably the most well read of us. Have you read much
No
on
offense, that's
rest?
fine.
I mean, I count myself with you, but I just, you correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I've read Harry Potter like 6 times, so don't worry about it.
I just finished for the second.
They're so good. No, I think it has been my hobby for a little while to read books about rest. I'm like, okay. I'm like,
So who's thinking about it?
so I read like Kevin DeYoung's like Crazy Busy. I read
Uh-huh.
You're Only Human by Kelly M. Capick. I read Humble Roots by Hannah Anderson.
Oh, I read that.
I love that. And
Got a
also
bit
The
over the
Ruthless.
analogies.
Oh, I loved them.
The gardening, sorry.
I loved it. It's okay. But you probably did like You're Only Human, which is pretty solid. I also read The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by
Oh, yeah.
John
Mark Comer,
Mm.
which I was like, oh, I actually lived up to the hype. Like I listened to audiobook and that was really solid. And then I think because I've also been obsessively reading books about digital tech and how to like digital minimalism, like Cal Newport and all of those kind of books. And I think for me, this is how I don't know, it's who I am, it's how I learn. So I just tend to read obsessively on a topic until I kind of, it sinks into my head. I think for me, I am not there yet, but I think what I'm seeing is that the people who rest well, they do it within the rhythms of their, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, it's Sunday and this is what we do on Sunday. There is a
Mm,
way that life works, like we work hard for this season and then we have like a break. And when I am running my life sensibly, I can do those things. And that's the dream for me of like working towards. I want to be really clear on this is what I've committed to. And actually, it is okay to say no to other things.
yeah.
And I'm really, at the moment, I think I'm really heading towards being like, yep, it's looking after my family and it is running the magazine and doing those two things. But I want to steward them well. And the people that I think I've seen, like you've said people who've got like, physical and mental health or people who've learned it the hard way, but they're just that bit more determined to be like, well, I don't want to go back to burnout land. I don't want to go back over
Yeah.
there. So I have to be really mindful at the start of like, I have to say no to stuff, not because I dislike it, but because I can't go back there. I can't go back to
Mm,
like,
But is saying no to stuff and not overcommitting yourself the same as rest?
that's a good question, man. I
yeah.
think saying no gives opportunity for you're not always pushing your limits, but I do think rest is something different as well.
Maybe like saying no to stuff gives opportunity to rest with intention, because I think
Mm,
genuine rest, which like biblically is seeking God and be still and know that I'm God, and actual would be sort of that living your life in the face of God. I think is a very intentional thing that you have to use your will in, because I think it's I mean, it's not easy to say no to stuff, but saying no to stuff is sort of step one, and then you have to also rest.
so
Mm,
saying no to saying no to like pushing yourself beyond your limits, saying no to being overcommitted, but also saying yes to, and this is how I will rest when I have that time, because I'm not just going to spend the time that I have now on my phone
Yeah.
or scrolling. You're like, how do you actually rest? Which I suppose leads into how do you actually rest? Maybe Rach.
I kind of don't at all. I don't. I'm very, very bad at it. It takes a lot of like willpower. Though I have done a few times, well, after I had Callie, or Shelby, one of my children, I had to go to a pelvic floor physio because so I don't wear myself for the rest of my life. And I thought I had a really strong. This is probably TMI, whatever. I thought I had a really strong pelvic floor, but what I actually had was a pelvic floor that was tense all the time. And so then when I tried to actually tense it, it was already tense, and so then it had no power. So what I had to learn to do
yeah.
was to learn to relax it fully and then tense it. And so I find that now, even if like as you're sitting now, you'll notice like, oh, my shoulders are tense. Oh,
Yeah.
my tongue's on the roof of my mouth. I have just tension in me at all times, and so I have to really actively release that before I can actually try and get into a headspace
Mm,
of rest, which I'm very bad at. Don't take my advice on resting.
Also, don't think I'm amazing at prioritizing rest. But some of the things that when you're talking and I'm thinking, what do I actually find restful would be walking in nature. I always find that
mm,
really restful. Sleeping, although I don't always sleep that well, so that's not always a guarantee. Movement, not, killing myself movement, but things like kind of Pilates or yoga, trying to take a quiet moment and like actually, drink a coffee, enjoy the coffee, think about the coffee. I don't really practice mindfulness, but just kind of soaking in the moment where I can. It depends how much frenetic energy I've got running and how much I'm actually running from thing to thing. Building margins has been helpful for me to think about. I
mm,
do remember being amazed at, I had a friend in school who would schedule in time alone in her diary. And I didn't know people did that. Like, so if people said to her, could you hang out next Wednesday night? She'd say, oh, sorry, no, I'm busy. But the busyness was that she was hanging out by herself at home.
That sounds awful.
This is like, so this is where we're opposite. I'm like, yes. Like,
Yeah.
for me, I used to look at my calendar, and if I didn't see something in there, I'd be like, great, this is time to like socialize. This is time to do something. If someone says what, I'm like, yeah, I'm free. But actually,
Yeah.
like, I have had to, it's so lame to anyone else but me, put stuff in the calendar to be like, this day I have to be at home. You know, okay, fine, some days I have to clean the house, but if I don't put it in the calendar, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to be like, that's free time. I'm going to go out, and then it doesn't happen. So whatever. But the other things is, okay, I have lunchtime. You know, just booking in like, okay, I'm going to sit down and like actually eat my lunch because that's what I would do if I was at work. Or
Yeah.
I'm going to put my phone away at this time, like I'm going to cook dinner, and then I'm actually just going to have an evening and go to bed. But like just having that little block, not for long, but just a little bit, just like having little regular bits of rest in my day where I'm like, okay, yep, I get that hour, like, and I suppose it's hard, Rach, because you work shift work. But like even for me, like if I wake up and my kids wake me up first thing in the morning, like I'm already grumpy. But if I wake up at 6 and I know that they're going to be up at 7 and doing whatever, I'm like, okay, I can sit there quietly
Yeah.
a little bit by myself. I actually think just scheduling in time by myself, or when I know that I can leave the house by myself, or just have a bit of quiet, like it's the scheduling margins that has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can actually tell how I'm doing by whether or not I give myself any of that time. Because I'm not great at scheduling it in. It's just not my natural inclination, and I just forget. But the busier I get, the worse I get at it. And when I
Yeah.
get even just a little bit, even, yeah, like you said, like sitting down and eating lunch,
Yeah.
actually having something for lunch other than something I find
Crust.
a crust, hummus. Hummus is my lifesaver.
Hummus and crust, delicious.
I would love to have a crust.
Sometimes I just sometimes I eat a heated up wrap. I heat it up on the stove and then just dip it in the hummus. Like, great lunch.
Nice.
Like,
That's
I
all
don't
right, it's
need
got protein
breakfast.
in it.
Breakfast is for the week.
Exactly.
No, I definitely eat breakfast. Oh, I need to. But yeah, like actually taking care of your basic needs is a good point of reference. There was a poster when I grew up, we had a poster in the house and it said, early to bed, early to rise, makes you healthy, happy, and wise. And it was like a picture of this bear. But it's one of those things that's really stuck with me. And often I think about it when treating mental health concerns because literally some of the most basic things help us feel better. They're not going to
Yeah.
solve all the problems or why they're occurring or any of those things. But just like prioritizing the fact that you need to sleep, cleaning your teeth, eating enough food each day, getting some sunshine, exercising, having some friends, they're just really important building blocks of well-being.
I mean, what's dumb is, right, like we're all in like health professionals, like we know this stuff, and like yet we can't do it. Like why? What
Yeah.
are the things? How do we get around the barriers? This is me like gesturing. Like how do we, when you can do them, what are you telling yourself that you can rest? Because I think it's just so easy to just get caught into like making every moment productive. Got to redeem every moment.
I keep thinking about, I think it was John Wesley, sorry. In the like revivals in England, he was a famous preacher. Do you know John Wesley? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we read to our kids, there's a book called Every person and child should know or something, and it's just little biographies of famous Christians. And during this conversation, I keep thinking about this woman and their mother. I think her name was Susan or Susanna, and she was a prayer warrior, and she's the one that she would cover her head. I think it was with her apron. And so she'd sit in
She
a
was like,
chair
I
and she
need to
would
be
cover
by
her head.
myself. She had 17 children
Yes,
or
and she's
something.
like,
Maybe it
this is her
wasn't
time
17.
to pray. And it was just like that picture of her sitting in a chair, that like apron over her head, praying, and her kids were just around doing things, but that was her time for prayer. And I was just thinking about maybe there's something in the, say what you want about head coverings, that's a whole other thing, but like maybe there's something in the physicality of I'm covering my eyes and covering my face and just having a moment in quiet and taking that stimulation away.
Mm,
Because I just that picture of her sitting in the chair just kept coming to me in this conversation. I was like, oh, it's an interesting thought, and it's very intentional as well. Of like, this is the chair, I'm covering my head, and now this is my time to pray. Because I think I'm a very tactile person, and I think something like that would actually probably be quite helpful.
mm,
Yeah.
I weirdly have found like writing out my prayers has been the most helpful thing I think I've ever done. I used to like try and pray and I'd get distracted or I'd fall asleep. Like I'm very good at falling asleep. And just writing them out, being like, thank you that you're like this. Sorry for this thing. Thank you for this. You know, I need your help with this. And like
mm,
long, they're not amazing, but just like, okay, I get my book, I sit here, you know, I read my Bible, I write the thing. That's the time of the day and I have it. I just, yeah, I cannot express like how much that has like changed my life. And I don't like it never,
mm.
I don't know, like I didn't know anyone else who wrote out their prayers before. And I was like, this seems weird, but also it really works for me.
Because I think as Christians, I think there's a certain hand in hand of prayer and rest. Because I think you can probably
Yeah.
rest without praying, but true rest, we should be, if we are resting, we should be then resting in Christ and relying on him as to come back to as like a recalibration. And so that sort of would have to go hand in hand with prayer.
I'm just thinking about the part in John where Jesus refers to himself as the living water. Is it when he meets the woman at the...
Yes.
Yeah, and he
The
says she
Samaritan
won't
woman.
have true rest.
Mm.
Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. The woman said to him, Sir, you have nothing to draw water with and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock. Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so I will not be thirsty. It's a pretty powerful image of like our rest is really in Jesus.
Well, and then that also makes me think of the come to me all who are weary and heavy laden,
Yeah.
and I will give you rest.
Yes. It's not about doing rest. You can't optimize it.
No.
Because it's actually just a gift of God.
And it's that fundamentally it's like humility. It's like I have to come to Jesus. I have to bring it all to him. Like he's the one who's going to give me rest. I give him all my burdens. Like I can't carry all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a real bad job. Help.
Please.
That's my most common prayer. I literally was like, oh, I need the help.
Yeah. Which leads me to Britt. Please summarize. What would you say like the takeaway points? Thank you.
Rest is really hard. Some of the barriers are actually sin. Some are just the nature of the world that we live in. True rest is in Jesus and not in actually striving or doing things. And it's good to examine why you don't rest and what the barriers are, and really to consider, is this about validation? Is this about not being humble before God? Is this about assuming I am actually God?
That's it from us, friends. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, you can sign up to our free weekly newsletter called Stories I Tell You at Dinner. So you get essays, poetry, podcast episodes, everything, photo essays straight to your inbox on Wednesdays from March through to November from Christian women in Western Australia. If you'd like that, the link is in the show notes. Thanks for listening, guys.